Management lessons from eala's triumph. When 21-year-old Filipino tennis prodigy Alexandra Eala stepped onto the hard court at Toronto's 12,000-seat Sobeys Stadium for the National Bank Open, a remarkable scene unfolded. Sold-out crowds transformed the Canadian venue into a sea of blue, red, and yellow flags. The overwhelming turnout of the local diaspora, which Eala herself dubbed as Barangay Toronto, was so magnetic that tournament organizers adapted with speed. Executive chef Ashdad Dadachanji added sizzling chicken adobo and deep-fried pork lumpia directly to the official changeover kitchen menu, complete with chicharron crumbs and banana ketchup, explicitly responding to the voice of the Filipino community. It was a vibrant showcase of the best of the Philippines, elite athletic discipline, rich cultural heritage, and an unyielding diaspora that gathers in force to elevate its own. Coming on the heels of her historic WTA singles title victory in Washington, the first ever for a Filipino tennis player, Eala's rise signals a profound expansion of the nation's sporting footprint. The Philippines is no longer framed exclusively through boxing or basketball. A new generation of youth is picking up tennis rackets, eager to emulate a homegrown talent competing at the summit of global sport. Yet, as inspiring as the Toronto breakthrough was, it lays bare a deeply familiar national paradox. Why does the Philippines execute so brilliantly through individual drive and organic community action abroad, while remaining perpetually hamstrung by institutional deficits at home? Consider the structural contrast. In Toronto, a young athlete, supported by private sponsors, family commitment, and a passionate global network, compelled a major international sporting event to pivot its operations within 48 hours to serve thousands of Filipino fans. Back home, fundamental public infrastructure projects drag on for years. Critical flood control and transport systems buckle under administrative inefficiency, and regulatory friction stifles municipal expansion. We take one giant leap forward through civil and human excellence, only to retreat 2 steps back through institutional inertia. The core lesson for corporate boards and public policymakers is stark. In the Philippines, civil and human capital routinely outpaces state institutional capability. When government funding for grassroots sports falls short, private academies, corporate sponsorships, and family sacrifices step in to bridge the void. When public logistics infrastructure fails to connect agricultural produce to consumer markets, community rescue initiatives and social enterprises step in to buy directly from farmers. When national social safety nets lag, overseas remittances cushion macro-level trade deficits. Time and again, Filipinos adapt, catch up, and deliver world-class results, even while operating under severe structural deficits. However, relying on individual brilliance, private capital, and civic resilience to compensate for governance failure is not a strategy. It is a coping mechanism. To bridge the gap between human potential and institutional capability, C-suite executives and policy architects must examine 4 core management dynamics: grassroots agility versus bureaucratic inertia. The Toronto organizers recognized market demand and adjusted their supply chain overnight. In contrast, public agencies and slow-moving corporate bureaucracies in the Philippines remain bound to cumbersome approval chains. True operational resilience requires organizations to adopt agile execution frameworks that empower operational leaders to act on market signals immediately. Diaspora safety net versus sustainable capital strategy. While diaspora turnout and overseas capital repeatedly rescue national metrics, relying on civic goodwill to offset systemic deficits creates a false sense of security. Policymakers and financial leaders must transition from treating diaspora contributions as passive remittances to channeling them into structured public-private investment vehicles, infrastructure bonds, and institutional development funds. Reactive investment versus proactive pipeline building. National Sports Administration often practices reactive reward management, showering athletes with incentives only after they win world championships. This mirrors our national approach to infrastructure, where maintenance is addressed reactively after structural failure rather than through predictive asset management. Enterprises and state institutions must shift toward developmental investing, building regional facilities, grassroots pipelines, and training programs long before the victory is secured. Brand building through capability, not advertising. A 21-year-old tennis star and her community did more for Brand Philippines in Canada, demonstrating warmth, discipline and cultural vitality than multi-million peso marketing campaigns. Soft power and corporate reputation cannot be fabricated by PR committees. They are the natural byproduct of delivering authentic operational excellence and human capital growth. Alex Eala's milestone run in Toronto proves what happens when talent meets opportunity. The imperative for leadership is no longer proving that Filipinos can excel on the global stage. The imperative is building home court institutions, our transport grids, regulatory systems, educational facilities, and corporate structures, among others, that operate with the same speed, discipline, and world-class standard as the citizens they serve. K. Calpo Lugtu is the Chief Operating Officer of Hungry Workhorse, a digital and culture transformation firm.